I could do a big jazzy intro and tell you all about this great movie that we all saw, a movie that I think only cost $75 million to make and is directed by a Disney legend, except it wasn't made by Disney. Well, you might have gathered that from the fact that it didn't cost $400 million to make. We're talking about our thoughts on The Wild Robot here on That Park Place. Hey, Jonas Campbell from the future here, and I wanted to tell you all that we decided to split this into two parts. We had Morgan Stradling on the channel to talk about Wild Robot, and the conversation went on a lot longer than we originally thought it was, so we found a nice dividing line in the middle of this review. We're first going to have this non-spoiler review, which will include our scores near the end, and then we're going to be splitting this into a spoiler section, and where we talk about a little bit about the situation with Disney and Chris Sanders, who directed this film. Obviously, he also directed Lilo and Stitch. He's got a lot of great stuff that's come out of the How to Train Your Dragon series. It's going to be an epic, and we talk about the themes of the movie in a more full sense. Anyways, I just wanted to tell you we're going to be splitting this into two parts and returning you to the original review right now. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, although mostly a movie reviewer today. Also with me here today is, as usual, Mr. VashSky, but joining us from rotoscopers.com and also the Animation Addicts podcast, Morgan Stradling. Welcome.
Hey, howdy, hey.
I am so glad that you all have seen this movie now.
Absolutely. Just got out of the theater only a couple hours ago. So, yeah, just running, I don't want to say on fumes, but we're running, Jonas, and I am very excited about this film. Really, really interesting stuff. We'll get into it.
Yep. Morgan, you have just seen it recently, like today recently, right?
Yeah, normally I'll see a press screening for it a week or so in advance. I was out of town all last week, so I missed the press screening, and then I missed opening weekend. And so I kept seeing all the buzz all weekend about this. And my kids, we've all read the book together. And so I was just chomping at the bit to see this because I was very, very hyped, very amped up.
Yep, all of my kids have read The Wild Robot. I have not read it. I'm behind. I still haven't even read Wing Feather, and they've all told me I need to read that one. We're very slowly going through the Harry Potter books as I struggle to do a Maggie Smith impression whenever I try to voice McGonagall. May that wonderful actress rest in peace. Mm-hmm. But we saw Wild Robot on Saturday as a family, and thankfully it was at a not ridiculously priced theater, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. Amazing film, honestly. It is I'll just set the stage for anybody who doesn't know what this film is. It is the story of Roz, which is short for Rosum, whatever the number is, robot, who crash lands on an island. Something happens that knocks her or her cargo plane out of the sky. She's not really aware of all that. She wakes up, there's some otters like pecking at her or whatever, and she's wandering her way around this island as a domestic robot or some kind of worker robot, trying to find out what her task is. She's obviously a consumer product of some kind, and she's wandering around trying to figure out how to exist in this environment that is really not suited for a domestic robot. And somewhere along the line, she accidentally falls into a nest, and the way this film handles death is actually quite remarkable. She accidentally falls into a nest. It is clear to the grown-ups what has happened here, that they find the larger dead bird and then one remaining egg, and that egg hatches and becomes what eventually we learn is Brightbill. Super adorable character animation on Brightbill, by the way. And she adopts Brightbill and figures out from some of her animal friends that eventually it becomes a talking animal picture, but it's not a talking animal picture, in my opinion. We can talk about that more. She learns that the goal here needs to be to get Brightbill raised up enough to get him off of this island before winter. So he has to learn to migrate. So we have yet another film from Universal Pictures that has something to do with migration. I haven't watched Migration. If one of you have, you can comment on that.
It's good stuff.
That's the central plot point of the movie. So with that being said, I don't want to spoil the film, but that's basically the inciting incident here. Like I said, I was very surprised at how this film is very upfront about the things about death in a film that is for children. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I think it's actually okay in children's films to confront death head on, not in a gory way, but in a very much like, there is a circle of life. There is a joke from a possum character. It's played for laughs, and the possum is voiced by Catherine O'Hara, who does a fantastic job. About whether or not one of her children dies in the middle of the scene. He turns out to be okay, but they're also joking about death because they're possums. I don't know. It was something that even my wife, who is very sensitive to the idea of children in harm's way, found it quite funny.
Yeah, it definitely had the theme of Darwinism and that death is just a fact of life. And they show kind of gruesome deaths. There's a part where there's a crow or something that just its head gets ripped off and you see it. And I actually really liked that. I thought that was kind of unexpected. You think they would do something off screen, but they just showed death as is in nature. And they moved on from it, and it was sad. And then there were moments where it was just part of life, and other times where you mourned it a little bit more, and different characters, we got used to them. But I thought that was a very interesting piece that they selected to include.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like it's not like a gory death. It's just kind of and that's there kind of thing.
I would say the theme of death is handled a little bit dynamically. So in the kind of the first period of the film, in which no animals are actually speaking, no voices have actually been set, death is handled like you would expect out in the middle of the forest. But then as the picture progresses, I would say death is treated with a little bit more care as personalities are established. So I thought they handled that quite well, I thought.
Mm-hmm. The film itself, I think, has a great cast. Lupita Nyong'o, forgive me, I'm probably saying that name incorrectly, does a great job as Roz. Pedro Pascal plays, I want to say Fink. His name is not, a lot of the animal names are kind of secondary other than Bright Bill. They don't play into plot points, so it doesn't really matter.
In my mind, it was just Fox.
Yeah,
this is Fox.
But he does a fine job in it to the point where I thought, this voice sounds familiar, but I'm not sure who it is. I wasn't thinking about the cast list for much of the film, but everybody does a great job. There's no real problems here. When Bill Nighy shows up, although I will say, I love that voice. I love the way he talks. So excellent breath of fresh air in the second act there.
Brings gravitas to the role and to the picture itself.
Yeah, I thought the performances were all really great. Do you guys have anything you want to add there? Throw in anybody that stunk that I'm not thinking about right now?
I don't know the voice of the skunk particularly, but Mark Hamill shocked me. I didn't realize he was the bear.
Didn't see that.
I loved the voice of the peregrine falcon. His name is Ving Rhames.
Oh, yes. Yep. Yeah,
I thought it was just perfectly cast that it was, these falcons they're very petite and they're small, but they're fast and they're mighty, and it had this really deep voice, and it just made me laugh and chuckle, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, Ving Rhames does the voice in the Arby's commercials. We have the beast.
Well, it went Mission Impossible on me, and he kind of takes on that role of teacher that he's finally remembered for those films. So I thought that was perfect casting, like you said, Morgan, and just awesome. And I didn't expect it either, and I was like, whoa, okay.
What I liked about the voice cast is I wasn't really distracted by the voice cast. It wasn't a Jim Carrey or whoever has a very specific voice, like Awkwafina, speaking of migration, where it just throws you out and you just think of the person and not the character. And all of these people, when I saw their name after the fact, I was like, oh yeah, that was great, And so I thought for that reason, all the voices matched the characters and who they were supposed to be and represent. Kit Connor doing Bright Bill and just had this very adolescent young kid voice that felt innocent and sweet. It all worked seamlessly together, and there was quite a range.
Right, I totally agree with that, and that's actually a pretty good point. First of all, I was asked because we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. Oh, Pedro Pascal and Mark Hamill and all these liberals are in the cast. Like, first of all, Mark Hamill's character probably has less than one paragraph of dialogue when it's all put together for the entire movie. There's not any political message to speak of. There's a brief shot of something where you go, oh, maybe that's a global warming thing, but it's not integral to the plot in any way. There was the harshest language in the entire film, and I mean, this is a very clean film. The harshest language is one character says sucks and the other one repeats it. It's really a very clean movie. I'm not saying that none of the themes are heavy. This might be a PG because it does, again, it deals with death. I'm not ruining any plot points by saying, as we've already talked about, it does deal with death. But I think, especially Lupita Nyong'o playing Roz does a fantastic job of playing this maternal character and who is not starting out trying to be a mother, but has it kind of thrust on her. And by the end, you can tell that everyone is understanding it's a found family movie, but it's not in the same way that they just put a bunch of criminals together and try to pretend like they're a family. Although if this is that, it's them doing it right. Pedro Pascal's Fox character comes in as someone who is trying to take advantage of the situation. Lupita Nyong'o's character is coming in as someone who is trying to do the right thing. The goose is adorable for a good. There's a lot of comedy to be found from the goose, but it's this family unit that you can almost see it expanding from the individual to the family to the community. And there's a lot of really strong themes here. There's a lot of feminine energy, I want to say, in the beginning of the film, but not in a toxic feminine sort of way. But then you have like Ving Rhames' character who comes in and injects this thing about you that you think is weak. Let me tell you why it is your strength. And it's like, very, very boom. This is what it is. It's a very manly thing for just this one moment. There's like, and I'm not trying to say it's all about gender roles, except that a lot of these happen to be associated with specific genders here. There's a lot of very basic truths about men and women and roles and motherhood, and not so much fatherhood, but it's not a fatherhood movie. It's a motherhood movie here. I see a lot of really positive messages about all of those things in this film. So I'm glad for my children to watch a movie like this, even though none of this is an absolute perfect fit in the idea of a traditional family. Anybody have anything to comment on?
Well, no, there were themes of traditionalism. There were themes of the traditionalism for sure, but there were also some themes of like, okay, like it's not adequate sometimes to just rely on your programming. You kind of have to rewrite the code, so to speak, and that's definitely a theme in this film. You mentioned Lupita Nyong'o. That, I believe, was a very critical role, I think, from the producers and the creatives of this film, because, the Roz character is expressionless. Mostly, and there are subtle expressions used by the animation itself and by her art style itself, but very expressionless. So that voice actress really needs to nail that down and get the expressions from playing a character robot to the best of her ability. She did a great job there.
Yeah, they had a moment, and on the podcast we like to call this the "you lied to me" moment, where
Right.
very pivotal moment for Bright Bill, where he discovers that he's adopted. Essentially, he's just bought this lie this whole time. And that's something that's, when you're talking about adoption, do you tell them initially, do you wait, whatnot? That's a real conversation that adoptive parents have. And I think what people do now is you just always bring it up. You don't hide it. You don't wait.
Mm-hmm.
But because she's so black and white in her thinking, it doesn't come up, and she doesn't need to. And it ends up creating this huge rift that causes a big problem in their relationship that needs to be repaired.
Yep. And do we want to, I mean, we're like 13 minutes in. I don't know how this is going to be edited, but from this point on, I think we can be free to mention any spoilers that we might want to. Actually, let's rate the film and then let's talk about spoilers. Sure. I'm just going to go for a simple metric here. It would be a 9 or a 10 for me, because I think this is a classic. If it was Disney, they need to be putting this in the parks. This is like really fantastic stuff. But I'm probably, this is my last numerical rating I ever intend to give. This is 2 thumbs way up right here for me. I think this is an instant classic. Morgan, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I am very stingy with my 10s, so it takes a lot to get a 10 out of me. You have to be Beauty and the Beast level. But I really enjoyed this, and I'm probably going to give it a 9. With future viewings, I can kind of go up or down, but initially it's a very strong 9.
I would follow that. I would give it a solid 9. I thought the pacing, at least up front, was just a little quick. It would have really benefited from just slowing down just a little bit. I know it's got I believe, a 1 hour, 42-minute runtime. So it travels pretty fast, and that is nice. but just a little bit of time in order to kind of let everything sink in, I thought would have benefited the film greatly.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, we're going to be continuing this review in another video here on the channel. It's going to be a spoiler review. But before we do that, I want to remind you to go check out rotoscopers.com and, of course, the Animation Addicts podcast with Morgan Stradling there. I think she did a great job here. Love to have her back on the channel. In fact, she'll be here for the spoilers review. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. Like this video. If you like this video, drop your comments below if you watched the movie, if you intend to, anything like that. And consider subscribing to That Park Plays for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.